Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we're going to be considering the study article number 13 for this week, June 2nd to 8th, 2025. And this is the study article 13 entitled, Jehovah's Hand is Never Too Short. The theme text reads, Is the hand of Jehovah too short? Okay, what's the meaning of this expression, Jehovah's hand? And why it's important to understand the meaning of this expression? Okay, let's find out. Let's start with paragraph 1, and the question reads, How did Moses show trust in Jehovah when he led the Israelites out of Egypt? And we notice Moses was aware of his weaknesses. He was afraid. He didn't know how to speak properly. And of course, he was afraid of the Pharaoh of Egypt. He was a god among people, the powerful leader on earth, a human leader at that time. And of course, his wizards and his powerful army. But he focused on Jehovah. He showed faith when he led the Israelites out of Egypt, because Jehovah chose Moses for this assignment. He refused to be intimidated by Pharaoh and his army. Trusting in Jehovah was the key for Moses. He led the people through the Red Sea and later into the wilderness. Okay. He trusts in Jehovah. Now, paragraph 2, question, why did God ask Moses, is the hand of Jehovah too short? Okay, of course, Jehovah is not a human being. This is a metaphorical expression. The Israelites and of course the company of people, the group of people from Egypt, some of them were tired of being eating just manna. And of course, the thing is they wanted to eat meat, and Moses couldn't imagine where to get meat enough for millions of people around. It was simply impossible. There were not an amount enough of sheep, of bulls, cows, etc., or batteries. For any human being, that was simply impossible. And Moses couldn't imagine how Jehovah could provide enough meat to satisfy the millions of people there in the middle of the desert. And that's why Jehovah said to Moses about everything he was doing for his people, how he opened the Red Sea, the 10 plagues, how he overcome the wizards of the Pharaoh. And of course, Jehovah is not a human being, and that's why he said to Moses, Is the hand of Jehovah, is my hand too short? He's not a human being. That's the first point. Okay. And here, this expression refers to God's Holy Spirit. He is powerful. And of course, nothing is impossible for the Holy Spirit. Number 3. Why should the experience of Moses and the Israelites interest us? Okay, this is very important. In some way, we feel this world as a wilderness. And from time to time, we might ask ourselves if Jehovah will care for our material needs and, of course, our family material needs. Okay, that's why we were considering this interesting example and more biblical principles. Learn from Moses and the Israelites. Paragraph 4 question: what may have led many to question Jehovah's ability to provide for them materially? There were not just the Israelites. There were some people from Egypt going with them, and they were a bad influence for the Israelites. The mixed crowd grew tired of eating manna, and so did many of the Israelites, who joined in making the complaint. So you notice who were the first ones who started to complain. They were not the Israelites. They were the mixed crowd from Egypt, and of course from other places. But they started with complaint, and this is contagious, very dangerous. Okay, and Moses, feeling pressure from the people, seemed to think that he personally had to provide for them. And that's what happened. Okay, number 5 and 6. What can we learn from how the mixed crowd influenced many Israelites? Okay, we must be careful with our associations, because in some way they could affect us negatively or positively. For example, there are some people and they are ungrateful. They are displaying this ungrateful spirit of others, and to do this, we could become satisfied with that Jehovah provides. We could start to display an ungrateful spirit in our family, in our congregation, in our personal life. And it's sad but true. That could happen if we looked back longly at what we once had, or if we became jealous of what others have. Okay, this is very important. So instead of envy or jealousy, we focus on what we may have and our beautiful hope for the future, and of course in the spiritual things, and we say thank you, Jehovah, for all the blessings that we have in our life. Very important. Number 7, why can we be confident that Jehovah's hand is not too short? Jehovah God was Moses' God, and Jehovah, is our God also. Moses' God is our God, your God. Very important. It's the same God. Okay, Jehovah helped Moses in the middle of the desert, and of course his people, and Jehovah has been helping us in the middle of this desert, of this wilderness, of this system of things. He's been doing so, and we notice that. We can figure out how he did it, how he's been doing, but it's simple. He's been doing so. So, when we're under trial, we shouldn't doubt that Jehovah's hand will reach us personally. We don't understand, we can't figure out how, but we just trust in it. How can we avoid making the same mistake that many of those in the wilderness made? Okay, very important point. Whether we're rich or poor, we should make it a priority to store up treasures in heaven by building a close friendship with Jehovah and Jesus. A very important question to think about is how we use our blessings to blessing others. That's very powerful. Jehovah is pleased when he notices how we use our blessings to bless others, especially those who are in need. Okay, we can be certain that Jehovah will provide for us. 9. Of what can we be sure as to God's support? Okay, this doesn't mean that we'll never experience material loss or that we'll never be hungry. Okay, very important. But Jehovah will never abandon us. He could move some brothers and sisters to give us some help, and if they are not brothers and sisters, as he did with the Apostle Paul, Jehovah could move non-fellow believers to give us a hand in our situation. Very important. Have you ever been in a situation like that before, where you see Jehovah's hand in your life helping you during a big and tremendous trial, a painful trial? Probably you notice the help of the brothers and sisters or some non-fellow believers, but you notice his hand. Let's discuss about some situations dealing with financial problems. Paragraph 10. What financial problems might we face? Okay, very important. Every single day we notice how the situation, the worldwide situation, is changing. Not for the best. Sad but true. We can expect economic conditions to worsen, political turmoil, armed conflicts, natural disasters, new disease, worldwide disease, unexpected expenses, or to the loss of our job, our possessions, our home. Who knows? So it might be tricky and difficult. 11. What can help you to deal with financial problems? We must be careful with our expenses. If we've been spending money out of our budget just to keep appearances, that might be not intelligent or worth it. A very important step is talk with Jehovah. In our private place, we could pray Jehovah and let him know our situation, what we feel, and begging by his help us to cultivate contentment with life's necessities. And of course, we could do our own research in our publications or talk with some mature Christians about some ideas to improve our financial situation. Number 12. What questions can help a Christian to make the best decision for his family? Okay, there are some brothers around the earth, and they've been accepting some works out of their places, maybe in another location, a far away location, even in another country, and they've been traveling and they left their family for a long time. And sometimes they recognize that was the worst decision they ever made. Why? Not because of the money. They got a lot of money because of that decision, but the other price they paid was their family. For example, one of the questions reads, how might my marriage be affected if I were away from my mate? Adultery. Sometimes it happens, it's very common. What impact would it in their children? Sometimes they left the congregation and they involved in bad associations and they start with drugs and bad associations and they got into troubles just because one of their parents left them because of their work. What impact could this move have on my Christian association and on my ministry? Very important questions to consider, to reflect and think about. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Planning for our future material needs. 13. Question. What reasonable steps can we take now to help us deal with our material needs when we grow older? Okay, the Bible at Proverbs 6:6-11 encourages us to work hard so that we can care for our future material needs, like the ant. And this is very important, a practical measure. Money does provide a measure of protection. However, we should avoid making the quest for material things the focus of our life. 14. Why should we consider Hebrews 13:5 when planning for our future financial needs? In some countries, they have this retirement option, and this is great, but not in all the countries. On the other hand, we understand that even with the best plans for retirement, we do our best to plan for our future needs, but sometimes unexpected things may happen, and that's when we need to trust in Jehovah's support. He has the last word in everything, in every matter. 15. What balanced view should Christian parents have of their children? Okay, very important. The Bible states that parents should care for the needs of their children, and this is since their childhood, before he had born. And we notice, of course, there is a limit of age where some countries parents are caring for their children and their needs. But things are different when parents got older and they need some help. So 2 Corinthians 12:14 doesn't mean that children shouldn't help or give a hand to their older parents. Of course, that's not the idea. However, in some countries, in some areas, in some places, some couples view their children as a retirement plan, and of course, that's not far enough. That's not God's purpose. And some been living a disappointing experience because they have many children, but no one of them is interested in helping their parents. Okay, very important. And Christian parents recognize that their greatest joy comes from helping their children to become servants of Jehovah. 16. How can parents prepare their children to support themselves financially? By their own example, and of course their words, their teaching. Teach your children to trust in Jehovah as you help them prepare to support themselves. Some parents been training their children to get things by their own instead of giving them everything in their hands. They train their children to get things with their own effort. One day they'll thank their parents. That's one of the most valuable teaching. And eventually, one day they are alone by their own, they'll be ready to be walking by their own in this system of things. Another important point and advice is help them to do their best at school. Very important. Okay, and this includes education matter. 17. Of what can we be certain? Okay, Jehovah's hand is with us. Is being with us and is gonna be with us. How exciting. No matter what happens, though, let us be determined to trust Jehovah will use his hand to provide for us materially. We can be certain that his mighty hand and his outstretched arm will never be too short to reach us. Okay friends, that's a wrap for this video. Thank you so much for joining us in this consideration. We hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you in our next video. Bye for now.